My new book, Pillars for Life, A Guide to Spiritual Ethics and Practice, is now out and available for you to read and purchase. You can check out our website, willowhealing.org, to find a link, or you can find it on Amazon. We look forward to getting your feedback, and if you love it, please leave a review and share with your friends. Now it's time for the show. Welcome to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We are so excited to have you joining us on this journey where we explore different ways to empower your soul, whether it's healing in your kitchen or all the way up in the corporate world. Come with us as we look into different ways to heal your mind, body, and soul. Hey everyone, it's Catherine Cristani with another episode of Willow Healing Matters, and today I am joined by Dr. Braxton Nguyen, who is a chiropractor, a clinic owner, and a lifelong student of natural healing. He has founded Access Health Centers in Portland and Beaverton, Oregon, where his team specializes in helping people recover from auto accidents, chronic pain, and structural imbalances without relying on surgery or medication. So a big welcome to the show, Dr. Braxton. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So I guess what pulled you to work as a chiropractor and then also to focus on recovering people without surgery and medication, which I think is such an important thing, but what pulled you into that space to begin with?
Absolutely. So when I was young in high school, I had a significant injury, a sports injury that basically changed the course of the direction of my life, so to speak. So during my junior year in high school, I was in the track and field team, ran what's called the 4x1 relay. And during that time, I blew out my right knee as I was undergoing the first leg of the race. And when I say blew out, I literally ruptured my what's called the anterior cruciate ligament, or the ACL ligament, which is the main ligament that holds the knee in stability. And so after the significant trauma, I had to have what's called reconstructive surgery to replace that ligament. Now, once that happened, it changed the whole course of my athletic high school, venture, and eventually even any aspects of college, moving forward to college athletics as well. After I had surgery, I had physical therapy for about 6 months. During that time, I was actually in chronic pain every single day during that whole time. And it would affect me the way I was walking, even when I was sitting in class. And it started really bothering my lower back because it changed the mechanics of my knees. So it started shifting up into my lower back, and I started developing also lower back chronic pain as well. Every time I would go back to get a follow-up on my knee condition every few weeks with the orthopedic medical doctor there or the nurse practitioner. They would always prescribe me medication. Back then, this is back in the 90s, I was often prescribed oxycodone. Yes. And there's a whole show on oxycodone on Netflix. You ever want to watch that? They talk about the whole epidemic. And a lot of the individuals that were on oxycodone over time led to a journey that they kept on increasing the dose, and actually potentially can be life altering. So I didn't know a lot about the I just knew that I had to take it because of the chronic pain. And I even asked the medical doctor, I said, am I going to continue having this pain, onward? He didn't really give a definitive answer. Basically, the medical doctor said that, yeah, you might live it, but, just keep on taking the medication. Hopefully it'll wean off over time. Being as young as I was, I just took his word for it and felt like I might live with this, onward. But I was so young, so I was naive. I didn't know exactly what to expect. Fortunately, a brother-in-law of mine was going to chiropractic college here in Portland, Oregon. And during that time, I touched base with him, and I said, I heard that you're in chiropractic college. Can you tell a little bit more about it? And he said, well, it's a natural healing process that actually addresses the spine and nervous system without drugs or medication or surgery. And it kind of clicked. And he said, you should really look into other natural options, because the way you're going with the medication, it may be difficult for you to actually turn back. And so I got really concerned. And then just one thing led to the other, where eventually there was a career speaker in high school, and it was actually a chiropractor. I sat in the front row, listened to what he was talking about as well. So I talked with my brother, and then it was the speaker, and it all came full circle. And I started talking also to local chiropractors the around the area where I lived. And one thing led to the other. I actually decided to eventually go to school to become a chiropractor after I graduated high school, and I went to my undergrad and eventually went to the school that my brother-in-law went to out here in Portland. That's what brought me out here in Portland. It was only when I was in the college where I started learning really about chiropractic, the nervous system, and eventually got the special treatment at the student health clinic where I really understood about the mechanics of the body, that I was able to, with the care, with the clinic, and then also with the understanding of the mechanics of the body, the nervous system, that I was able to kind of wean off the medication and eventually, return to my full capabilities without the chronic pain in the knee or the lower back. Once I graduated chiropractic college, I wanted to kind of take that personal story of mine, and then also the knowledge that I knew from chiropractic to kind of share with my patients. And 20 years into it, we've changed people's lives, not only from a standpoint of chronic pain that similar to what I had, but many other different chronic related condition. That's truly where my passion lies, is people that are really suffering with chronic related conditions.
That's such a powerful story, Dr. Braxton, especially how you kind of get let down by the medical system there in terms of your pain management and things like that. And I know personally, um, I've had a chiropractor. I had a birth injury, so I was at chiropractor from a very young age because my mum was like, "No, we're sending you to a chiropractor." Very like looking for alternatives, and then I went back again when I had my little one because he didn't sleep very well. So, and we were very blessed and found an amazing chiropractor. But it was interesting because a lot of people who I would say, especially I worked a lot with children and their parents, will be like, I actually feel you need to go to a chiropractor. And they look at me. They're like, oh, but the doctor said. I was like, yes. However, my feeling is like, because I was quite intuitive too, my feeling is you would really benefit from going to see a chiropractor. So even I had employee working for me, and she was just in the car, and I think she said she was just turning. This has happened to me too, where you just turn to look to go merge, and your whole neck goes out,
Yes.
but she was stuck like that, and she couldn't move. And I said, you need to go to a chiropractor. And she's like, oh, no, no, no. So she went to, and this isn't putting physiotherapists in a bad thing, but she went to a physiotherapist and she didn't get any changes or anything. And she'd gone for like 3 sessions. I'm like, you need to go see the chiropractor. She's like, oh, all right. And she went for 1 session and she's like, oh my God, I can move my neck again. It was just 1 session. I was like, I know, because, and a lot of people don't realize too, even, the habits of keeping your head down, how much, especially scrolling and things like that, how much it's actually putting that extra pressure on your spine.
Right. Yeah, the repetitive stress. Yes. Text next is what we call it.
I remember my chiro had this image of it. It's like holding a big weight on your head, and that's the thing it's doing to your spine.
That's true. Yes. Every single day. Yeah, absolutely.
So do you use any, I know a lot of people are probably like, what is chiropractic actually involved? Because a lot of people just think of chiropractors and think of cracking the neck, but what else does a chiropractor actually do? I know, but I feel like to
Yes.
ask you to share that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the with chiropractic, the emphasis is the spine and the nervous system. The foundation is the chiropractic adjustment. When people think of chiropractic adjustments, they think of it's generally the snap, crackle, pop type of adjustments, but there's more to it than that. So, with the different age ranges that I see as a chiropractor, there can be from kids to the older community, the geriatric community there. So everybody is unique in terms of their body type and structure. That being said, with the adjustments, or the chiropractic adjustments, it's not always what we call like a manual adjustment where actually you're twisting the neck or twisting the back. But there's other methods where it's more gentler. So we use different instruments. There's instruments called the activator or the impulse that actually applies very gentle, quick impulses to stimulate the nerves to communicate better with the brain. And I use this a lot with the older community where, they're very fragile. A lot of them are osteoporotic. The bones are weaker. So you don't want to do anything that's too forceful in that nature. And they love the gentler methods. There's also other techniques called drop table. I use drop table techniques where the table has drop pieces for the neck and the back. It helps to balance out the pelvis or the neck and even other areas of the body like the we call it the extremities, such as the upper extremities, the hands, the shoulders, and also knees and feet as well. That is the foundation. Now, if you get more in depth into chiropractic, within the chiropractic profession, there are many different types of techniques. Myself, my specialty is I'm what's called a chiropractic biophysics practitioner. So that being said, or CBP practitioner. So when you become a chiropractor, you can actually go into other specialties within the field itself. Now, with chiropractic biophysics, I wanted to learn the technique that is the most research-based technique in all of chiropractic. So they are the most research-based technique. So there's basically proven data, proven research that backs up in terms of the type of treatment that we do. And there's a whole website a lot of times where I would share the information to our chiropractic community. It's called the CBP nonprofit, where it talks about the emphasis of spinal corrective therapy. So the foundation is if an individual has acute or chronic related conditions, I myself as a CBP practitioner, I would do a full consultation, evaluation, and definitely x-rays. Very important to understand the structured dynamics of the x-rays to see if there's any loss in curvature in the neck, like text neck, like we talked about, and how off it is away from the normal, how it's affecting the nervous system, if there's any degeneration, what's causing it. We always want to identify the cause. And then from there, we would actually digitize those x-rays to compare to normal ranges. And then I can set up a plan of care based off of the research to kind of actually track the individual's progress structure-wise, which eventually will enhance their nervous system and improve quality of life.
Yeah.
So, I've been doing that, and it's been a great joy because you can truly see people's condition when they first come in to eventually their quality of life, whatever it may be, whether they're sleeping better, whether it's just able to kind of stand up and walk several steps, or if they want to jog or run where they weren't able to do it before, whatever their goals are, we want to understand the root cause of it, address the root cause, and then formulate a plan of care so that we can track their progress.
Yeah, and I love that summary that you have at the end, because a lot of people don't realize how much your spine being out of alignment impacts so much more than just I feel a bit out of alignment kind of thing. And especially your nervous system is impacted so greatly, and so often you're like, oh, my neck hurts, but it's actually your hips are out, or,
Right.
yeah. And and it's yeah, and it's so counterintuitive. I remember I used to go in this one time I went into my chiro and I'm like, I have this weird pain here. He's like, oh, hang on. And he pushed this other spot completely at the other end of my body. He goes, how's this feel? And I'm like, oh my God. He goes, yep, this is where it's from. It's just because we're such a complex, intricate network. And when you have something out of alignment, it just throws everything else out.
Yes. Yes. We take a very holistic approach. That's correct. A lot of times
Yeah.
the pain is not always a source of the actual condition itself.
What have you found, since having your ALS injury and coming back from that? What was kind of the most beneficial thing you noticed in your own chiropractic treatment, or even those clients that come in to you from having the support?
I think the most noticeable thing was when you kind of live with any type of chronic pain for a period of time, long it becomes, you become numb to the condition. Okay. And then you don't realize the simple things that you've taken for granted before, such as just sitting and getting up from the chair. I still remember, even when I was back in high school, just sitting in class and having that chronic ache and just constantly thinking about that. And then once I got up, it would basically cause almost like a stabbing injury, and I would be so hesitant to just get up from the chair. And this was happening on a regular basis. And so you just become numb to what was going on, and eventually you're trying to deal and live with it. But once I was able to address it naturally, during chiropractic college and at the clinic there, you know, I started not thinking about the pain anymore, even when I was in classes in chiropractic college compared to when I was in high school. And it just clicked. I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't feel the discomfort. I don't feel the pain like I used to. Well, I'm getting up like a lot more fluidly, and there's no stabbing sharp pain like a knife stabbing in my knee. So those things there really hit home to me. And knowing what I've gone through, and when patients comes in and they describe to me some of those things there, it basically, I can really relate. So basically, it comes down to the things you've taken for granted before has made a big difference now that the body is in a healing process without the medication that I was on for a long.
Do you find any injuries like that, especially athletic injuries, that you have to, when you're helping the nervous system and the spine realign to it, do you find that people end up with a different posture, or they just need to let a release happen from going through that trauma?
Definitely, there is, the body adapts to the stress physically, but also from a psychosocial or mental side as well.
Mm.
From a structural side, absolutely. If you have a structural change, whether it's in the knee or the hip or the neck, your body will begin to adapt to that stress. And as it adapts to the stress, the posture will change, and your alignment will be off. And once again, anytime there's a structural change that occurs within the body, it automatically will begin to affect the nervous system. And of course, our nervous system affects everything in our entire body, not from a standpoint of a physical side, but it can actually affect you from a psychosocial or a mental side as well. Some individuals I've seen over time, they're in this state of pain that is ongoing, that they begin to become depressed. And so then it leads to another path where they're taking, antidepressant medication, and that this is the path that I see. And so by helping them structure wise through chiropractic, improving their nervous system, there's less pain, but they have more energy now. They're able to breathe, they're able to sleep better. Then, sure enough, eventually they feel happier, and then they don't have to take the medication anymore because their depression actually diminishes. So that's just an example. Is structure is very important. Interrelates directly with the nervous system.
So just intuitively, I just heard then, like, so when it's almost like this image of from pressing down the pain because their system's putting so much energy into managing that pain, it almost leads to the depression because they're constantly pressing down and putting all their energy into managing what's chronic pain. Anyone listening, like, who's been through chronic pain, fully understand how hard it is to do that on like a long-term basis as well.
Absolutely. Yes. That's exactly what the body is trying to do. And I see this with a lot of patients over the years where because of that chronic pain, they're trying to suppress it in different ways, whether they're with medication or other remedies that they're trying to address it. And then if the source of it or the root cause is not addressed, it begins to kind of feed off into other complications as well. So as I made mention, the body will always try to adapt to the stress in many different ways. Another thing that I see with a lot of the chronic related individuals or patients that I see is when they're in chronic pain, so their metabolic systems begins to be affected. When I say metabolic, that's the internal systems. So their thyroid can be affected, definitely their adrenals, because that's a stress gland, right? So it gets heightened, it can be overactive and eventually can shut down. and that can lead to other complications, which then can also feed into gut health. And guess where what gut health can be affected directly relates to the nervous system. There's a lot of research behind that. So this cycle is like a constant loop. And if those sources are not addressed, that cycle will continue to occur, and it begins to wear and break down the body and can lead to, once again, poor quality of life down.
And I know too, when I was reading out your bio, you mentioned that you specialize in helping people after an automobile accident.
Yeah.
So I feel to bring up that even like the slightest, like any sort of impact, even if you walk away unscathed, it's good to have a check because of whiplash, which a lot of people discount, right?
Absolutely. With whiplash, it's a very unique type of injury. You're talking about forces that are above and beyond what the body is designed to take. So we're talking about thousands of pounds of force from another vehicle transferring through the vehicle that you're in. And because you're part of the vehicle as an occupant within the vehicle, you're absorbing all that force. And as you're absorbing all that force, whiplash forces occurs that can occur in many different ways. It can be front to back motions, it can be a twisting motion, it can be side to side motion. And when the forces exerts on the spine and the nervous system, you can actually cause micro tears within the tissues. And that's what's called sprain or strain injuries, where there's literally tearing at the tissues. We call it past the physiological range, where the tissues actually gets overstretched to the point where they begin to tear. And when they tear like that, then the body will begin to accommodate for the injuries by trying to protect those injuries. So they become very guarded, very tight. It becomes in spasm mode, and it limits the mobility. Of course, along with that, also there's inflammation and pain that sets in as well. So whiplash is very important to address, especially after a car accident, even if it's low impact, because you're still absorbing thousands of pounds of force within the body. So the sooner an individual gets evaluated, the better off they're going to be, which, if addressed early enough, can minimize the chance of future development of scar tissue and chronic related complications.
Yeah, and I can attest to that because I know I've been in a few car accidents, unfortunately, over my lifetime. I don't think if you're someone in like your 40s and you've managed to get through unscathed any car accident, well done.
That's impressive. Yes, most images is usually multiple car accidents over their period of life. So yes.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, it doesn't matter. It's the fact that you're going. It doesn't matter how slow you're going because you're still, having this brunt of impact. And I found too, I would each time really quickly because I knew about chiropractic and things like that, or even just going to acupuncture, anything like that to try and reset the body. It was so important to do. And, even every time I went there, like, oh, good, this hasn't set in yet. That's what the comment was always from the practitioner. It hasn't set in yet. It hasn't
Yes.
become your new way of being.
I agree. I agree. Yes, and one other thing is, it's always good to get evaluated early because, like as you made mention, it hasn't set in yet. So a lot of times, individuals can develop what's called delayed onset symptoms. The body is still adapting to the injuries, and then later on, as they're doing their daily activities, they can just be bending a certain position where they don't even realize it can cause the injury, and all of a sudden it spasms up on them, or they're bending their back and then now they're on the floor, and the only thing that they can attribute was, oh yeah, I was in a car accident about a week ago, I was fine until then, and I just bent over the other day and now I can't get up. Definitely I see often individuals with delayed onset that comes into the clinic as well.
I've thrown my body out in the weirdest ways, but the funniest was I was trying to put my jeans on. I was jumping
Yeah.
into my jeans and I threw my whole back out. And my car is like, and you're putting the clothes on, right? Not taking them off in a hurry. I was like, no, it's definitely putting them on. But this is just, this is why it's good. Even if you feel your body's okay, it's nice to go have a team that you can go to. So when your body's not okay, but also doing the maintenance in the meantime, right, is really important too, because, it's like if you only go when you have a flat tire, your engine could be not running right versus, constantly having those check-ins to make sure that your body is where it needs to be. So then when you do have an injury or something, you know who to go to, but also you can bounce back quite quickly because your body is used to that natural homeostasis of being in alignment.
100%. You basically stated perfectly. Just like just like if you go to your dentist, same very similar. The initial evaluation, they'll check your teeth, and if you have cavities in there, they want to address that. But they're going to tell you, have you been flossing? Have you been brushing your teeth on a consistent basis? And if you haven't, you're going to have more cavities. Do that on a daily basis. You're going to minimize bacteria and so forth, which will minimize the cavities. And then after that, you want to maintain it as well. Same thing with your spine and nervous system. So important to initially get a good plan of care to address whatever conditions you may have by way of the adjustments or other forms of natural therapies that through chiropractic. And then afterwards, it's good to maintain your spine and nervous system, whether it's once a month or twice a month or more than that for some individuals that choose that are more active in nature to maintain the spine and nervous system. So it's crucial to have maintenance or supportive care after the initial program of care.
Yeah, beautifully said. And are there any, for anyone listening, are there any care kind of things that they can do for their body that you would recommend that anybody do, as well as having maintenance or having a check in? Is there anything that you recommend to people?
Yes. So coming back to we're in our society right now, definitely right now we're bombarded with social media, and we're on our phones a lot, we're on the computer a lot. So I tell individuals, if you're on your phone or if you're on the computer, take a break, set some time for yourself to take a break. In between your break, you can do specific stretches. One simple one that I tell individuals, really simple, is pretend like you have a drawstring right on top of your head, and then just kind of draw right up. Just by doing that, it kind of just opens up the spine a little bit better rather than in a contracted state. you know, Open up your chest, breathe, take deep breaths in and then out, just to kind of, get that oxygen within your system. So the key thing is just to take breaks in between whatever you're doing and allow your spine and nervous system to kind of get that exercise that it needs. And move around also. I encourage individuals if they're in a sitting position for a prolonged period of time, take that break, move around, walk around, even if it's around your desk or your room, and just to get the body moving is a key thing rather than being in a stagnant sedentary position for a prolonged period of time. It's a simple way of helping the spine and nervous system, improve.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that. And I love the string.
Simple thing. Simple thing to
Yeah,
do.
exactly. Exactly. And I asked the guests that come on the show, Dr. Braxton, if you could heal or change something in the world, what would it be?
I think what I want to do is just be a voice in terms of my community, even if it's the community that and I'm currently in, but any way that I can help to spread the word more from a chiropractic holistic point of view, to let individuals know that you don't have to live with chronic pain. And if you do and you're stuck in your ways in terms of doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results, and you're not sure how to get out, keep on looking. There's other options. And hopefully, just with this podcast alone, if I can share this message with somebody out there within the world, whether it's in my local community or on the other side of the globe, and just let them know that look for other options. You don't have to live with life with chronic pain. There's other ways of addressing it. And hopefully they can find that path, whether it's through chiropractic or other natural healing methods. Hopefully they'll find that path that can literally change their life.
Yeah, I think that's such an important reminder because there's so many other options than what we have been conditioned to believe are the only options, and when you be curious and you start to question things and take your power back in that situation, it's really, really important to remember that it's your body and you have the decisions and the control to decide how it's treated and what goes into it. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Totally agree.
And if people want to come and have a treatment from you, Dr. Braxton, or your team, where can they find you?
Yes, so we have our website, which is accesshealthcenters.com. They can check there. There's information about what we do, what we offer, how we assist individuals to address their conditions, and the type of services. We also have our Facebook page as well, Access Health Centers Facebook page. We also have my Instagram page. It's Dr. _Braxton_Nguyen, and has many testimonials on there. I have a lot of testimonials. I just love sharing the message with our actual patients within the community, because a lot of the individuals, they can relate. I can say about what we do and what we offer and how we help people, but it's really about the actual individuals. So I have a lot of testimonials on there, and hopefully it can connect with the community in some way.
Yeah, exactly. And, we've talked a lot about adult injuries, but for anyone with children, I cannot recommend chiropractor enough, especially if they're not sleeping.
Yes,
Sometimes it can be their nervous system just needs that little release, and no, your baby will not be cracked. I want to emphasize that too. Yeah. So any mums listening, and your child isn't sleeping, by all means, maybe investigate chiropractic care. Maybe that's what's missing in your life, and you can get some sleep again in your world. So,
absolutely. Great point.
well, thank you, Dr. Braxton, for being on the show. And I truly appreciate what you're doing to help people through pain and realigning their spines and their nervous system.
I appreciate it, Catherine. It was great being on the show.
Thank you for listening to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We have so much love and gratitude that you have taken the time out of your day to empower you on your healing journey. The views shared by the person being interviewed might not necessarily reflect that of the host and should be used at your own discernment. Trust what resonates for you and follow your heart and soul guidance. If you have any underlying medical conditions or mental health issues, please consult with your healthcare provider before pursuing any of the recommendations. Likewise, you can always contact the person being interviewed to find out more information. This can be found in the show notes. Remember to activate, align, heal, empower, and find love in everything that you do.